Welcome to Satsang. So this morning I've been asked to talk about breaking through illusions. And you don't really break through illusions, you actually stop having them. And so everything that the mind produces, every thought that is produced, is in fact, well, it's imagination, so it's still an illusion. Thoughts aren't actually real. They seem real, and it seems like we're actually into something and that something's happening. But the truth is, it's all imagined. Thoughts aren't actually real, they're imagined. And so commonly thinking is called dreaming. And most of the world's adult population spends a lot of time dreaming because they spend a lot of time in their minds. They can be aware of what they're doing in the material world, but at the same time aware of all these thoughts, this dreaming. And this keeps people locked in lower consciousness because dreaming or thinking is actually lower consciousness. So there's no breaking through illusion. That's just doesn't happen really. What happens, if you're interested, is you stop thinking. You stop constantly supporting the ongoing, continuous stream of thinking. And meditation affords that. The practice of meditation is the practice of abandoning what is not real, thinking, for what is real, whatever that may be. Maybe your breath, maybe you're watching your breath. That's real. What you think is not real. And so meditation is the great recovery tool for those who have found themselves lost in dream, illusion, thinking. A lot of people would probably not like to think that they're lost in illusion, but everything you think is not real. It's a projection. It's imagined. Have a look. What is actually real? And high consciousness, well, spirituality generally speaking, is about what is real, not what is not real. That's the problem. And so if we're walking, be aware of our footfalls, be aware of what's happening around us, be aware of what we can see, what we can hear, what we can smell, what we can feel. This is mindfulness training. This is getting you out of your head and into reality. Because if you're aware of all of those things while you're walking, it's very hard to think. It's very hard to dream. It's very hard to be in illusion. And so the idea of breaking through illusion, no, that's an idea. It's another dream, actually. It's about stopping the illusion, not paying attention to it, not giving it credence, giving awareness to what is real. Everything around you that you can see is real to some level. Everything you hear is real to some level. Everything you feel is real to some level. What you think about it is not real. Now, ultimately, what is real is beingness. And so in preparing yourself for awareness, staying aware of itself, you're teaching the mind to get out of the way. Because the mind, is the only obstacle. There is no other obstacle in the way of knowing self as truth. As long as you keep in your head, analyzing, remembering, projecting, worrying, getting anxious, whatever else you do, planning, procrastinating, you're lost in illusion. And you may not even realize you're lost in illusion because the dream may be so deep. It's like when people get angry, they're in a deep dream. They're actually believing some victim-orientated story and they've riled themselves up and they've got adrenaline going through their body and they really think what they're thinking is real, but it is not. It's a dream. The same as when people get really frightened, same deal. It's a dream, it's a projection forward. It's not real. And so if you're interested in higher consciousness, you need to find a way to be with what is real. And ultimately, that is beingness. On the way to that is love, because love is real. What you think about love is not real, but love is real. And everything you see, hear, feel, touch, taste is real. What you think about those things is not. Being able to discern the difference between illusion, which is thinking, and reality for a lot of adults is quite difficult because they believe their minds to be real. They believe their thinking to be real. They are that lost. There is nothing real about what you think. It's just thoughts, it's imagination. Reclaim reality from the dream that you're in through the practice of mindfulness and the practice of meditation. And what you're doing is preparing the mind for love. You're preparing the mind for higher consciousness. You're preparing the mind for enlightenment. This preparation is a requirement because ultimately self-inquiry is great for turning awareness back to itself or finding isness as self or beingness as self. It's great. But unless the mind can support what is being found by not contracting, by not resisting, by not dragging awareness back to itself, there isn't going to be an ongoing enlightenment. The mind needs to be able to support what is found. It needs to become a servant of that, a servant of truth. And in such, it stays quiet. It stays down. The preparation for that is meditation and mindfulness training. And that's going to be up to you because no one can do it for you. And thinking about it won't help you. You can't think yourself into higher consciousness. You can't learn yourself into higher consciousness. You can only do practices that take you there. So breaking on or breaking through the illusion isn't what happens. Leaving the illusion out is what happens. Putting awareness on what is real is what happens, and then the illusion disappears. Up to you. You're the only one who's going to be able to practice. Are there any questions, any statements, or any challenges to this teaching today?
We have a question as follows. How can I tell the difference between reality and delusion?
Okay, that's called discernment. And people think, yeah, I can tell a difference between reality and delusion. It's easy. Well, for most adults, it's not that easy, actually. Because you've been in delusion or dream or thinking for so long, you've become used to living in dream. It's become a habit and you're used to believing it. The ability to discern takes a fair bit of practice. Nothing you think is real. Everything you think is delusion. And so that takes a fair bit of practice to, well, what's real? What's not real? What's here? So that happens to happen. You get that by practicing putting awareness on what's real. You get to know what is real and what is not real through practice, not through thinking about it. Thinking about it is, once again, you're dreaming. It's illusional. So it's only through practice that you can tell the difference, truly tell the difference between what is dream and what is reality, what is illusion and what is reality, what is thinking and what is reality. And that's going to be up to you to practice that. There's this beautiful Zen saying, sitting silently, doing nothing. Spring comes and the grass grows by itself. Sitting silently, doing nothing. For most human beings, that's an impossibility because they can't stop thinking. And thinking is doing. It's still doing. Sitting silently, doing nothing means sitting silently, doing nothing, including not thinking. So we're talking about sitting silently in meditation. Spring comes and the grass grows by itself. It's indicating a natural way to enlightenment or to higher consciousness. But in a way, it's not a natural way, because human beings have a lot of problems sitting silently doing nothing. That takes discipline. It means you have to practice. You actually have to practice putting awareness on what is real and abandoning that is not real, the mind, the obstacle. Up to you.
We have another question. If all feelings and emotions are illusions, why do they feel so real?
Because they usually have a pain involved in them or a physiological reaction in the body, which makes them seem real. So when we feel fear, the body fires off with adrenaline, and we get ready for fight, flight, or freeze. And so because of all this physiological stuff is happening inside of us, and because our diaphragm is locking up and our breathing is shallowing, we get to think that what we're frightened of is real because of all these other things happening at the same time. But the truth is, it's not real. That's the truth. And so we get an emotion of sadness, and oh, it's painful, so it seems real as well. But what's really happening? What's really happening? This is where discernment comes in. What's real and what's not real? There's nothing wrong with emotionality. I'm not suggesting that there is. But what's real and what's not real? Beingness is real. Love is real. What you can see is real. What you can hear is real. What you can taste is real. But thoughts aren't real. They're just not real. They're imagined. And so it always comes back to what's real. Even if something feels real, if it's thought-based, it is not real. It's an illusion. There's actually 99% of the time nothing happening.
The next question is the effort to get out of an illusion itself?
Well, you're using the mind. It's a bit like you get a thorn in your foot and you use another thorn to pick it out. And so you're using the mind to remove the mind by shifting awareness from thoughts to breath, which is a mind activity. Meditation, the formal practice of meditation, of keeping awareness on the breath, is a mind activity, because it does become a habit. It becomes automatic after a while, but in the beginning it takes discipline. And so you're using the mind to remove the mind by taking awareness away from the thoughts and onto something like the breath. And so it does take effort, particularly in the early stages, because you're going against the default pattern. And the default pattern is to think and dream and not be real. And so those that are interested in higher consciousness, as adults, have that default pattern of living in their heads to some degree, and that is an obstacle. That is in the way. What's real? Put awareness on what is real and keep awareness on what is real. And that becomes your habit. And you had that habit up to about 4 years of age. You were with what was real. You weren't living in your heads yet. You hadn't gone to school yet and learned to live in your heads. And living in your head's not a good place to live, because when we went to school, we were programmed, really programmed, to solve problems, to look for problems and solve them. And so we spent 12 years at school, maybe, or less, depending on how long you're there, or then you might have gone on to university or higher studies and spent more years. You spent all that time practicing living in your head, looking for problems and solving them so you could get a mark and get a degree or whatever. That becomes our lifetime habit. Now you're a problem solver. Now that's what you do with your life. You look for problems and you solve them. You analyze, you worry, you procrastinate. You live in the nightmare of your own mind, the matrix of your own mind. Meditation affords freedom from that. The practice of putting awareness on what is real instead of what is not real. And that's up to you. Nobody can do it for you, just you.
The next question is as follows. I've heard many teachers say that the ego is an illusion, but to me, that is just another idea that I can choose to believe or not. Is there a way I can find out for sure without taking it on as a belief?
Yeah, become a meditator. You see, gosh, it would have been in 1982 I started meditating, and with the Rajneesh organization. And it wasn't long before I just found what's called no mind, which is where in meditation you're just there and there's no thoughts. You're still there, you're still conscious, you're still present, but there's no thoughts. And of course, there's no I. There's no I thought. And so here I am in meditation, right, without an I, just there, present, aware. And then I come out of meditation and my mind goes, okay, so I was there, but not as an I. I was just there as presence. And so what's this I? It became very clear to me that I wasn't the I. How could I be the I if I was still there in meditation without an I? Caught the I out. It wasn't there. And the thing about the I is it's only present every now and again. It's not there all the time for anyone. It's there when we claim ownership of something, when we get offended by something. But it's not there all the time. It's not there a lot of the time. If you watch the mind, if you develop a witness of the mind, you get to see that it comes and goes because it's not who you are. It's just a computer program in the mind that claims to be you, but it is not. You are pure beingness. You can be nothing but pure beingness. You have always been pure beingness, and you are pure beingness right now. This illusionary I can be discovered to be illusionary through the practice of meditation. It can also be discovered to be illusionary through the practice of self-inquiry. Because when asking the question, who's aware, the potential is for awareness to discover itself, even for a glimpse. And in that glimpse, when awareness discovers itself, the mind becomes aware there is no I there, that there is no personal there, that what we are is way beyond personal. That's the other way to discover the I isn't real. Two ways I know. One is meditation, finding no mind as self, and then seeing, well, there's no I here. And the other way is self-inquiry, finding yourself as truth, even if it's only temporary. There's no I there. So if the I is not there and you're still here, who are you? Who are you really? Or what are you really? Yeah, it's more like a what. It's up to you what you're going to practice. The I is a problem. In Buddhism, quite that they say sometimes, no I, no problem. I agree. No I, no problem.
The next question is as follows. Is it part of the condition of being alive to be dreaming, and so we live in illusion naturally?
Well, if we were in the wild, if we weren't so civilized and we were dreamers, we would be dead because we wouldn't survive nature. You look at how present a fox is or a wolf is in nature. They're present because they have to survive on being present. Human beings are a little bit like sheep. They're so safe that they just dream their lives away. They ride push bikes while dreaming. They walk while dreaming. They in the kitchen while dreaming. They spend their whole lives dreaming because they're safe and they can dream. But it's not really natural. If we were really natural, we'd be present because our survival would demand it. And so, is it a part of conditioner to be alive? No, it's a part of feeling really safe to be a dreamer. Because if we weren't feeling really safe and we were dreaming and we were in the natural world, we'd probably die. So it's not a natural thing. It's been brought about by our ability to make ourselves so safe and so comfortable that we can dream our lives away. The trick in high consciousness is to not be a sheep, but to be a wolf, to switch on, to become present to what's real. That also happens to be the trick on how to be successful in business. Same thing. Up to you.
The next question is, does being an enlightened man mean there are no more illusions?
I don't have an interest in illusion. I don't have an interest in dream at all. I love reality, but I've been a lover of reality since I can remember. I've never loved dreaming, probably because I lived quite a dangerous life and dreaming would have cost me my life. So I've always been present, but I just don't dream. I'm present. And if you come and hang out with me at any time, you'll find that to be true. I'm always present, but not through discipline, through habit. It's my default pattern to be absolutely present to reality. That was a habit that was developed over a lifetime. The same as for most people, most adults, their habit is to not be present, to be somewhere in their heads, developed over a lifetime. But if we're truly looking at higher consciousness and wanting to go towards higher consciousness, we need to get present to reality, because dreaming is lower consciousness. Thinking is lower consciousness. And so you go into any monastery or any ashram anywhere in the world, and the first thing they're going to teach you is meditation. They're going to teach you how to get out of your head and into reality. That's the first thing they're going to teach you. If they're not teaching that, there's something wrong with the monastery or ashram, because the problem is living in illusion, living in your head. That is the problem. Switch on. Get real. Get with what's real. Switch on.
What does living without illusion look like?
You're looking at it.
It seems to me that the breaking down of illusions is a painful process for the ego. What does it take for one to even want to go through this process?
How much have you suffered at the hands of your own mind yet? If you haven't realized that you create your own suffering, you simply have not looked. If we don't live in our heads, if we don't live in an illusion, we don't tend to suffer, because suffering comes from resistance to life. And that resistance to life is always supported by thoughts, dream. There's a really good motivator for wanting to get present to reality. How about you don't want to suffer anymore? Because if you're not living in your head, you won't be suffering. All desires, all attachments belong to the mind. They belong to living in your head, belong to dreaming. Get real. Get present to reality. Stop resisting life. Accept life as it is and be free of that. Up to you. Or you can stay in your head. No one minds. The whole world is dreaming. No one's going to bother you. But if you really want to get free, get out of your head. Find a way. Because that is the prison. Your mind and its constant thinking is the prison. The bars of that mind are made of fear. And you can get out of it. You can escape the matrix. Put awareness on what is real. Ultimately, put awareness on itself, on beingness, on isness, because that is ultimately what's real.
The next question is as follows. Is taking on the bhakti path, the path of devotion, helpful to someone wanting to break from illusion?
Not necessarily. Can be. There's no doubt about it, can be. But the bhakti path, the path of devotion, the path of love, the path of service can still be filled with dream. And so I see the bhakti path as one wing of a bird. And I see the Yarni path as the other wing of a bird. And I believe for those that choose to be in the marketplace and go for higher consciousness, they need both wings to fly. They need the devotion, they need the putting themselves aside, which is what heart's all about, openness. And at the same time, they need the discipline of not entertaining the mind, of meditating, of self-inquiry. And the combination of the bhakti path and the Yarni path take you to heaven.
The next question is as follows. I felt a lot of fear recently around the coronavirus. How can I let that go when the threat seems so real?
They seem real, but do you know anyone who's had the coronavirus? Do you know anyone who's died from the coronavirus? Is it your own direct experience? Is it in your life? Or is it just on television and on the computers and in the newspapers? Is it real? I mean, I'm not saying that the coronavirus is not real, but I mean, you're just imagining a whole pile of stuff. Your fear is driven by imagination because it's not, is it really happening to you? My approach to anything is okayness. If I get the coronavirus and I die, that's okay. That's how it is. If I don't get it and I don't die, that's okay. That's how it is. That's okay too. When we can move through the world from a space of okayness inside ourselves, we can handle anything. It's our constant resistance to life that creates our suffering and our inabilities. The acceptance of life as it is sets us free and sets us up for higher consciousness and enlightenment, because ultimately it teaches us surrender. So acceptance is the answer. It's all beyond our control pretty much anyway. It's like you can do everything right. If the coronavirus is in your city, you can do everything right and still get it. Or you can do everything wrong and not get it. We don't have the control we like to think we have. So just make everything okay and do the best you can. Life becomes quite beautiful when you accept life as it is, rather than resist life constantly.
The next question is, if the mind is just a big illusion, how do I know when to trust it and when not to trust it?
So when we were little kids, when we were children, we were innocent. We didn't know anything. We were naive. And as life traveled for us, as we got older, we learned that we learned how to walk to start with. And we would learn how to walk by falling down and then getting up and then falling down and then getting up. And so we learned the different things in the world that we could trust, we couldn't trust, that we could do and we couldn't do. And we learned them basically by practice, by experience. And so as adults, we have an amazing amount of knowledge on what works and what doesn't work. And for most of us, it just happens automatically, a bit like riding a push bike. If you've ever ridden one, you don't have to, you can get on one and ride without thinking because you've already done it. It's already in the system somewhere. It's already programmed in. And that goes for just about everything we do in life as adults. It's been in there, programmed in there, and just happens automatically and unconsciously to a large degree. So this idea of what do we trust? Well, you've got to look at the word trust, don't you? Because true trust means no conditions. If we have conditions on the trust, that means it's not really trust, it's some kind of business deal. I'll trust you if. That's not true trust. True trust is unconditional surrender. And unconditional surrender is the key to enlightenment. But it's pretty difficult for a human psyche to trust because it goes against the survival mechanism. True trust is not about survival. It goes way beyond survival. But for the spiritual aspirant who's looking to go from higher consciousness to enlightenment, trust is actually a requirement. Because as the illusion stops, as the mind stops projecting its illusion, you get to recognize that every moment we're actually stepping into the unknown. And that is not safe. The illusion of safety has gone. And so there has to be trust to keep stepping into the unknown without knowing, without thinking. And that's a requirement for higher consciousness. And that happens as a result of practice because it's against our survival mechanism. And this is why higher consciousness and super consciousness are against nature, because it's not about survival. It's about going beyond the mind, beyond the survival mechanism. So enlightenment is not a natural phenomenon. It's an unnatural phenomenon, but so is higher consciousness. Natural is to stay in lower consciousness. That's natural. And so those people who step beyond that have actually gone against nature and defeated the survival mechanism inside themselves. Unconditional surrender or trust defeats the survival mechanism. And it is a requirement for enlightenment. So it's up to you. What do you practice? I trust that everything that happens is meant to happen. Otherwise, it would not happen. I don't have a fight with existence.
The following question is from Rebecca, who says, often I sense people's energy more so than the words they speak. I'm practicing meditation and mindfulness, but at times I feel my mind going into the illusion of analyzing. At work in particular, I can be in meetings and be sensitive to others' energy. In order to be effective in the workplace, I apply mindfulness and write notes during meetings to avoid missing what is said, rather than just focusing on the group's energy. Is there any further advice you would feel beneficial?
So, Rebecca, you're sensitive because you've dropped some defense systems that stop you from not feeling people's energy. As when we're born, we feel everything, but as time goes by, we developed defenses against feeling, particularly energy, because it's uncomfortable. Human beings, particularly, well, adults carry quite often very harsh energy inside themselves. It's quite painful as it enters you. But most adults have defense systems to stop themselves from feeling it. If you're one of these people who have taken those defenses down or they've dropped for some reason, you're going to feel energy and it's going to affect you. And the problem with sitting in meetings and feeling painful energy coming in is there's a distraction away from what's being said to how you're actually feeling about what's hitting you. If you're willing to put that aside, if you're willing to be absolutely 100% okay with the energy hurting you, you can be with the meeting. But as long as you're in any form of resistance to that energy, you're going to probably put your awareness on it and miss what's being said. I've been energy sensitive since I've been a boy, and I feel everything. I have no defenses against energy. I feel everything. And a lot of the energy that comes off adults is painful. But if you put your awareness on the pain, which is probably you're trying to control it, you miss what's being said in the group. You miss the meeting. You have to find a way, if you are that open, if you are that sensitive, to be okay with pain, to be okay with the discomfort of feeling. And if you can be okay with the discomfort of feeling, you can be with the meeting and you can be with what's being said. But that demands a level of surrender. And the only way we learn surrender is through practice of acceptance. And so it's not just about being open enough to feel people's energy, which is real, and it can be read. Quite often it doesn't match what people are saying, but that's another subject. You let go, you let go, you let go. And you be okay with whatever's appearing. It's our not okayness with what's appearing, probably the discomfort of the energy, that distracts us. Just be okay with what is, and then you can be with the meeting. Up to you. It is going to demand a level of surrender that maybe you're not good at yet. But whatever we practice, we get good at.
The next question is as follows. I notice I have jealous thoughts, fearful thoughts, or competitive thoughts. Where do these thoughts come from?
Nature. All of those thoughts are there to protect the offspring, basically. The body and the mind is a survival mechanism. So it throws up jealous thoughts to protect a possible relationship and a child coming through. In other words, survival once again of the species. Fearful thoughts are what protects us from dying, because we actually have these fearful thoughts that stops us from putting ourselves in danger. Once again, survival mechanism. Competitive thoughts. Oh, human beings are just war machines. Have a look at the world. We go to school and we get taught how to compete with our fellow students in getting marks, in sport, in everything. So where do you think the competitiveness comes from? We're not actually trained to be nice to each other. We're trained at school to compete with each other, to beat each other. And so, of course, that's where the competitive thoughts come from. We're programmed to be competitive at school. Fearful thoughts, jealous thoughts, purely survival, purely survival. And so we're talking lower consciousness. And where do they come from? The survival mechanism. The body, it's a survival mechanism. Human beings love to think they're this, that, and the other, but the truth is the mind and the body are simply a survival mechanism. Basically an intelligent animal. But because that animal's intelligent, it can turn awareness on awareness and know itself as truth.
The next question is as follows. Is there such a thing as a collective thought form, and how do you break free of that?
A collective thought form basically is the programming we got at school. For example, when I went to school, because I'm getting old, I was taught to believe that communism was the bane of the world, and that the red was under the bed, and that they were creeping down through Vietnam to actually take over Australia. And I was brainwashed into believing this stuff. And there was a kind of a community thought around the world, particularly in the 50s and 60s, that communism was trying to take over capitalism and that it was really evil. And the truth is that wasn't happening. The truth is communism was in certain countries and it wasn't trying to take over the world. It was just doing what it was doing in those countries. But I was brainwashed to believe that communism was a really evil thing and that we should stamp it out, and that I should go to Vietnam and fight against the communists coming down against Ho Chi Minh. And I was very fortunate. This is not in very early 70s, 1971 and 72, when we're still being conscripted. And I was very fortunate in that I really studied it and went, no, this is not right. This brainwashing is incorrect. How do I know that these people are doing this? How do I know that this is actually happening, that these Ho Chi Minh is trying to get the communists to come through Vietnam and then come down into Australia? This sounds like bull dust. And it was. But there was a community thought that Vietnam was we needed to stop the communists in Vietnam. So we sent 50,000 troops up there, and I think 5,000 of them died or something like that. Fighting in a country against something that we'd been brainwashed to believe that simply was not true. And so, yes, there are collective thoughts. Churches create them in people. Religions create them in people. Governments create them in people. The truth is we've all been brainwashed. Every single one of us have been brainwashed to believe things that we don't have any experience of. And this is why in higher consciousness, it is so important to start challenging the beliefs in your mind that have been put there from outside, because they're probably prisons. And there's a very good chance they're not even true. So examining the mind happens as a result of watching the mind, witnessing the mind. You develop a silent witness that just watches the mind, and you get to see the mind. You get to see what it's doing. And then you start challenging the belief systems. And if they aren't holding water, if they're not your own direct experience, start discounting them, because they're in the way. They are prisons. So the work for those that are interested in higher consciousness is to undo a lot of the programming that has been put in by our government, by our parents, by our churches, because it's all imprisonment and it's not even real. It doesn't hold water when once examined. That's up to you as a seeker. That's, in a way, a lot of the work that has to be done. Stripping away all the lies, stripping away all the rubbish that's in the way of freedom.
The next question is from Sacha.
Hello, Vishrant.
Yes, Sacha.
Vishrant, when we go deeper, towards beingness, and that time, due to survival mechanism, body and mind, they should not support. So that time, how we can go ahead?
Sorry, Sacha, what was the question?
Okay, my question is, when we go deeper towards beingness, and sometimes the mind and body should not support. So in that position, how we can go ahead?
I'm sorry, it's actually breaking up a little bit, and I'm not picking up what you said. Can you try again, please?
Okay, Vishrant, when we go deeper into beingness, and sometimes our mind and body cannot support. So in that position, how we can go ahead on our spiritual path?
Well, first of all, the body has nothing to do with it. It's all to do with the mind. And if the mind doesn't want to support your spiritual path, it won't. The mind won't do what it doesn't want to do. That's up to you. If the willingness is not there, there is no chance. It is only if the willingness is there that there is a chance to raise consciousness levels. There is no other chance. Those who raise their consciousness levels are willing. It doesn't happen by mistake. It happens because of a willingness, a thirst for truth, a thirst for freedom, a thirst for higher consciousness. If that's not there, there is no chance. And for most people in the world, they don't have that thirst and they don't have the willingness. And so there's not much chance.
Okay, Vishrant, thank you.
Yeah, the willingness has to be supplied by you. You can't get the willingness outside of you. It's like I look at my own relatives and my old friends, and they just don't have an interest in higher consciousness, and they have no willingness to have a look. Well, that's where they're at. And that's okay. Seekers are actually quite rare people because they actually have a thirst for truth and they have a willingness to do something about that thirst. But they are rare.
That's fine, Vishrant. But is our body play any part into the spiritual part?
Not at all. It's nothing to do with the body. It's all to do with the mind. It's all to do with how you think.
Okay. Thank you, Vishrant.
Thank you, Satsang.
The next question is from Redmi.
Hi, Vishrant.
Hello, Redmi.
I guess it's my phone. I don't know.
That's not your name, is it? You're not Redmi, really, are you?
No, I'm not really anything.
Actually, you're beingness, and you're using the vehicle of a body, which is just a spacesuit with an onboard computer, to be here.
Mm-hmm. One small step.
One giant leap.
Oh, thank you. So I just wanted to ask, when I'm in mindfulness practice, or trying to stretch my awareness to as much of my surrounding, I kind of use my heart as a focal point. And I just wanted to gain a little bit of clarity, because you've been talking about feelings being illusory. And for me, focusing on my heart, like right now, it's going absolutely nuts.
So
but
you're talking about being able to feel your heartbeat, are you?
yeah, but also there's this sort of, when I use it to sort of expand my mind, there's this kind of warm sensation, and I'm wondering if I'm just putting my mind there as a distraction.
No, it's quite possible you're opening your heart chakra. You see, if you put your awareness on your third eye and it's closed, it can start to open it. If you put your awareness on your crown chakra, it can start to open as well. Wherever we put our awareness, we can start to open things. So by putting our awareness on the heart chakra, we can actually start to open it. So you may actually, that warm feeling you're experiencing may actually be the opening of the heart chakra.
Yeah. So when I when I'm trying to practice openness, when I'm trying to drop defenses, that's kind of where my mind goes. And it's like a mixture of.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You can't actually find heart unless you open the heart chakra, because heart is always found in openness. You don't find heart in closeness or defensiveness. And so putting your awareness on that particular point and allowing that to open is probably dropping away all the defenses that are keeping it closed.
Okay.
Because really, if we can stay open, we can experience heart all the time while we're out here in the world. The only reason we stop feeling heart or perceiving heart is because somehow we've got ourselves defended again. And we've developed all those defenses from, when we're in the womb all the way till now to stop us from feeling things. But if you really want to be involved with a lot of heart, a lot of love, you need to find a way to remove all those defense systems so there's nothing in the way between you perceiving them. And so a lot of people don't feel like that much heart because they're too defended. But you seem to have a practice of putting your awareness in the heart position, the heart chakra, and to activate that, there has to be openness, which means you're activating, you're actually starting to perceive love. And that's very beautiful.
It is lovely. It's a nice place to kind of walk from.
It is lovely. And that was my aim, because I found I didn't have heart at the age of 33. I was too closed because I was a really hard businessman. And I decided that I wanted to find heart because I recognized that it was the only thing of value on this plane. And so I actually walked in and gave my companies to my staff and then walked around Australia for 4 years in search of my heart. True story. And it was a multi-million-dollar company that I gave away because it was more important to me to have heart in my life than to have money in my life. So I found heart, and I found that the only way that you can find heart is to drop your defense systems. You've got to walk through the world vulnerable, literally with your heart on your sleeve, and then there's love for everything and everyone.
Quite fortunate.
Oh man, it's the best thing I did. I considered that I wasted 33 years of my life making money and being successful, but ending up bankrupt because I didn't have heart. I had the dough, but I didn't have the heart. And I think that the only thing that's valuable on this plane is love. I don't think there's anything else that's valuable. That's it. If you haven't got heart, no matter how much wealth you have physically, you're broke. Love is the true jewel of consciousness here.
Wonderful, isn't it?
It is so wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the clarity.
What is your name?
Emma.
Ah, and you're calling yourself Redme.
No, that's what I mean. Somehow my phone's put itself up. It's like it's the device name.
Hi, Emma. I didn't recognize. Look, I now recognize your voice, but I didn't recognize your voice. Hello, Emma.
That's all right. Nice to speak to you again.
Nice to talk to you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is as follows. In spiritual circles, I have heard many people have blissful and heavenly experiences, and I'm wondering if those two are all illusion. What is your take on this?
So we can perceive dream, or we can perceive reality, or we can perceive both together. Everything you think is a dream. Experiencing bliss, which happens to the mind, which is another experience, isn't necessarily dream. There's something actually happening there, and there's the experience of bliss. The same as if you taste something, there's an experience of taste. The same as if you see something, there's an experience of sight. But that's different than thinking. Bliss is something that occurs as a result of higher consciousness. Sat Chitananda, truth, consciousness, bliss. And if you wake up, if awareness becomes aware of itself, there's a lot of bliss. There's just not someone personal enjoying it anymore, which is a funny thing to say, but it's true. The one that wants bliss, the I, disappears. It atrophies because it's just not real. But bliss is here a lot of the time, particularly if I'm out in the world. It's beautiful. Bliss, I would say it's real. What I think about it, and I don't, that wouldn't be real. That would be rubbish. Bliss is real. Love is real. Taste is real. Sight's real. Hearing's real. Thinking is not real.
The next question is, I understand the concept of Maya, that this world is just an illusion and a manifestation of the mind. But I find it hard to accept that all the beauty around me, like love and nature, are not real. Can you please comment on this?
Yeah, you're picking up a couple of different ideas there. When you say you understand the concept of Maya, it's like, for me, it's not a concept. Maya is everything that is not real. And what is real, my definition of reality is quite simple. What is real cannot change and does not change. It is always the same. And the only thing that I know that is always the same and is always here is beingness. Everything else comes and goes. So by definition, it's Maya. Now that's not a concept, that's a reality in the moment. As long as it just remains a concept, you're going to be confused. It has to be direct experience. And so you look at something and you say, well, that's beautiful. Well, that's a judgment. That's a mind judgment. That's a thought based on your own experiences, your own thoughts. It's not the direct knowing of self as truth. And so you get caught in that. You get caught in ideas, understandings, concepts, beauty, ugliness. What is real is beingness. Everything else comes, stays a while, and then goes. A little bit like clouds in the sky. The sky is always there. Beingness is always here. Whether you're aware of that or not, that is the quest of the seeker. The seeker is questing to find self as truth. And then the judgments drop, the concepts drop, the ideas drop, Maya drops, because you know reality is self. That's enlightenment. That's the goal of the seeker. And that's up to you. Because you create your reality with the way you think. What you may think is beautiful, someone else might think is not. Now, love, on the other hand, that's a very interesting subject, because when I'm out here in the world, I love everything. I love everyone. But when I'm inside, there is just vast space as everything and nothing. And so love, to me, is a little mystery. It's very beautiful. I see love as real because it's here. But when I go inside, there's just vast space and nothingness. So, but I'm okay with the not knowing. I'm okay with not understanding. But everything out here is Maya. It's not a concept, it's a reality. Find that does not change. Find that is always here. Find that is your own true nature. Wake up and be free. Thank you for Satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here today.